Hello, friends, and welcome back. So, today's topic for discussion is change management, where we will discuss about change management, its process, steps for change management, what are the types of changes, and what are the things to check in change management as an auditor. So, what is change management? Change management is the process of managing the transition from one state to another. And in the context of information security, change management is the process of managing changes to information systems and processes in a way that it minimizes the risk of security breaches, right? It involves assessing the potential impact of changes, designing appropriate controls, and effectively communicating and coordinating the change process. So there are some examples: hardware changes, which includes adding, upgrading, or replacing hardware components such as your server, router, firewalls, or storage devices. Upgrading the network switches in an organization to improve performance and security is an example of hardware change. Then there are software changes, which includes deploying, upgrading, or modifying software applications, operating systems, or patches. For example, installing the latest security patch on server to address known vulnerabilities. That is software change. Configuration changes, which includes modification to the configuration settings of systems or network devices, like updating firewall rules to allow or block specific network traffic based on security requirements. And policy changes, which includes revising security policies, procedures, or guidelines to align with evolving threats and business needs. Like every year we update our policies, so that is part of policy changes. There are two main type of changes. One is normal change, or we can also call it as a planned change. These are the changes that are made in a controlled and deliberate way, meaning that they are already planned and they are already scheduled. They are typically documented and approved by change management board. Example can be implementation of any new security policy or deployment of any new security product, which we have already planned, right? And then there are unplanned or emergency changes. These are the changes which are not planned or controlled. They can be caused by different variety of factors like human error, system failures, or any type of attack. So when you are remediating any security vulnerability, then you are dealing with the emergency changes or unplanned changes, right? So what are the steps and process for change management? So first, we have to identify the change, which may be driven by a business requirement or a security vulnerability or a technical problem. Why we require this change? First, we have to identify that factor. Once we have identified, then we need to assess the impact of that change, which includes identifying the systems and processes which will be affected. Once the impact of the change has been assessed, a plan for implementing the change can be developed. This plan should include the steps like what will be taken to minimize the risk of security breaches, right? We need to communicate the change to all the employees and all the stakeholders, like who will be affected by the change. Not all the employees, but all the stakeholders who will be affected by the change, right? And then implementing the change. The final step is to implement the change, which should be done in a controlled and secured manner. And one important point to note is before implementing any change in the production environment, organization should prepare a backup plan, or we also call it as a rollback plan, right? If something goes wrong, then we can uh, get back to our earlier stage. So that's why rollback plan is very important. We will also discuss like what are the requirements from an audit perspective as we move forward. Let's understand the change management with an example. Suppose a company decides to implement a new firewall to enhance network security. Then it will involve the following steps for change management process. The first step is request for change submission. IT team will submit a request describing the need for the new firewall, what are the specifications and what will be the benefit, what are the expected benefits of implementing the new firewall. And the second step is change assessment. The change management team assesses the impact of the proposed hardware or proposed firewall deployment on network infrastructure. It also identifies like what will be the potential risk and then appropriately design the necessary controls, right? Then change planning is developed specifying the firewall configuration, testing procedures, deployment schedule, and rollback plan in case of issues. Then testing needs to be done for the new firewall in a controlled environment, or we also call it as a testing environment, to ensure that it functions as it was intended. And once it is validated, then it is deployed according to the plan, replacing the existing hardware or existing firewall in the production environment, right? Once all the changes have been done, then post-implementation review needs to be completed for the installed firewall so that we can identify how it has benefited us and what are the risks it has generated and how we can protect against those risks or if any issues encountered during the deployment, right? So, what are the things you can check in change management as an auditor? First, you need to ask for the change management policy, whether organization have change management policy, procedures, guidelines or not. And if they have these policies, are they aligned with the industry best practices? Change request created or not? Before implementing any change, change request needs to be created. So whether it was done or not. Impact assessment is done or not. Impact assessment, like what will be the impact on the organization with the change, has organization carried out the impact assessment and whether the approval for the change has been taken or not. User acceptance testing done or not, right? We discussed that before moving changes to the production environment, it is tested in a testing environment. So whether testing was done or not, how the changes were communicated to the all relevant stakeholders. So we need to check that as well. We can check whether rollback plan or backup plan was available or not. Post implementation review done or not, right? How patch management is different from change management. Change management and patch management are related but distinct concepts within information security. While both involve making modification to an organization's IT environment, they focus on different aspects. Change management focuses on broader scope of modifications within an organization's IT infrastructure, which involves planning and managing changes that go beyond software patches, right? Change management includes hardware changes, software updates, configuration modifications, and policy revisions. And its purpose is to ensure that all changes are properly evaluated, planned, and executed to maintain system stability and security. While on the other hand, patch management refers to the process of identifying, acquiring, testing, and deploying software patches or updates to address security vulnerabilities and improve stability of software systems. Patch management primarily deals with updating and securing software applications, operating systems, or firmware. Okay, so we discussed earlier that there are two types of changes. One is normal change and another is emergency change. So normal change follow all the steps which we discussed, like generating the request, taking approval, doing the impact assessment, and then doing the testing, and then subsequently developing the change into production environment. While on the other hand, emergency changes does not include all these steps because they are on a high priority and needs to be introduced as soon as possible. Emergency changes typically represent a crisis or an opportunity that must be addressed without any delay. And emergency changes have high impact and urgency, so that is why we don't have that much time to do all the steps which we discussed. So what happens in emergency changes is you can check for post de facto approval. Examples can be like primary server failure or data center disruption or any emergency patch to a security vulnerability. So that is difference between normal changes and emergency changes. I hope you have understood about the change management and got a good insight how to audit change management process. Let me know if you have any questions regarding change management in the comments, and I would be happy to help. I would be happy to take all your doubts and queries. Thank you. See you with another topic soon. Have a great day.